Hi again folks, how are you all doing? Yes, it's another In the Shed video, episode 13. Unlucky for some. Let's have a look at some of the other locomotives I've been working on recently. First up is this Hornby Flying Scotsman sent to me by Maury, a tender-driven model with a 5-pole ring field. Maury told me his grandson dropped this, causing some damage to the rods and the cab roof. These things happen. Fortunately, the rods were only a little bit bent, particularly the cranks, so that was easy sorted. I checked the motor, which seemed to be in good order and working well, so I pretty much left it alone apart from a wee bit of oil. If a ringfield motor is in good, clean working order, I prefer to leave them alone, especially these 5-pole ones. Taking them apart and reassembling them can sometimes make them noisier than they were, so I tend to leave them alone unless there's something really needing done to them. I repaired the damage to the cab roof with some epoxy putty and paint, and all was well, and Flying Scotsman was running again. Maury also sent me this Triang Class 31, which he said just stopped one day. He'd had a go at sorting it, but to no avail. On inspection, I couldn't see much wrong with it really, apart from the motor being incorrectly assembled, but that was just because Maury had hastily bunged it together to send to me. But I stripped down, clean up, remagnetise and reassemble, and it ran fine. For once the bearings were okay, which is a common problem with this motor. Unfortunately, I seem to have lost the footage of this running on the layout, but it ran fine. This old Hornby B12 was sent to me by Alf. It had a broken pickup and a missing buffer. Fortunately, I was able to get a replacement pickup, although I did have to desolder and then resolder the wire to it because it had been fitted the wrong way around. But fitted that, serviced the XL3 motor, remagnetised it, cleaned up the locomotive and stuck a spare buffer on the front, and that was that. Not the quietest or smoothest runner, but then these B12s tend to be a bit clunky as they are a bit crudely made. Phil sent me 3 locomotives that had been converted for digital running years ago by the looks of them, and he wanted them converted back to DC. First up was this Battle of Britain Spitfire, not my favourite chassis on this model with a really daft underframe, but I ripped out the digital gubbins, cleaned everything, serviced and remagged the motor, and it was back to DC running. I also added a front fixing screw which was missing. Another XL3 motor, and not a bad one, but there's always the option to fit a replacement motor from Peter Spares if you want it to run quieter and smoother, or convert it to DCC. Secondly, Phil sent this Hornby King Henry VIII for the same treatment. Again, a very early digital conversion which I ripped out and disposed of, serviced the ringfield motor, cleaned it all up and reassembled it, and it ran fine as a DC model as nature intended. And thirdly, another old Hornby model that had an old digital conversion to get rid of, this time a Kneller Hall. Again, I took out the digital Hujima Dujure and rewired the X03 motor back for DC running. No problems with the locomotive, but the back-to-back on the tender wheels was way out and causing it to derail. So I adjusted those and that sorted it. This Lima Class 33 was sent to me by Paul, just needed a good service. Filed the gears and cleaned it all up and job done. Absolutely bulletproof, these old Lima diesels, as I often say, and as I also often say, stick a CD motor in them and they run even better, but this runs absolutely fine as it is now. Paul also sent me this very nice looking Lima 37, really like the livery on this. He sent me a CD motor kit from diesel-trains.co.uk, which are the ones I recommend using. Pretty easy job to do the conversion, I've done it many times, so no problems there. However, on completion and testing, I found the model to be a bit stoppy-starty despite cleaning the wheels and everything, but one thing I hadn't done was dismantle the front bogie to clean the pickups, because the keeper plate had been glued on. The clip had clearly been broken at some point. So I prised it open, and right enough the glue fumes had polluted the pickup, which were also a bit tarnished anyway. So I took it all apart, cleaned everything and refitted the keeper plate by drilling a wee hole and fitting a screw. Much more serviceable, and after that the model runs just fine with its new motor. Now then, this was a wee bit of a handful and probably should have got a feature video, to be honest. This is a Hornby Battle of Britain 17 squadron sent to me by Jeff. He told me that he suspected this had a split gear and he wanted to fit a DCC decoder. He got hold of replacement gears and opened the model up, but a wire broke and some of the pipework detail broke on the body. You know, the bodies on these models are quite tricky to get off and even trickier to get back on. Jeff decided not to proceed any further and tried to refit the body, but failed to do so. As I say, they can be very tricky. So he decided to send it to me. So I replaced the double gear, soldered the broken wire to the drawbar, gave it all a check over and service, removed the front coupling and fitted it to the tender as Jeff had asked me to do, and that was it sorted. Unfortunately, the damage to the pipework wasn't repairable, just too delicate. But otherwise, the locomotive ran absolutely fine. Jeff asked me if I'd fit the decoder for him once I got the locomotive sorted, as he didn't fancy trying to remove and refit the body again, quite understandable. So once I was done testing it, I opened it up again and fitted the decoder. Simple job, but yes, fitting the body on these models is a bit of a trial. With the decoder fitted, I connected up my DCC Select controller and made sure it was working okay. And finally, it wouldn't be an In the Shed video without a black 5, and there's been no A4s in this one either. But this Hornby Henry was sent to me by David. He's a member of the Boat of Garton Model Railway Group at Strathspey in Morrisshire, Scotland. They've got a layout in the Strathspey Railway Museum of the Boat of Garton station as it was years ago. They sometimes have Thomas running sessions for kids, and he tried to sort this Henry out that suffered a broken motion bracket, but gave up and got in touch with me and asked if I would sort it for him. So Henry was in a state of disassembly and came with a replacement wheel set, which wasn't needed. I had a spare motion bracket and some spacers that were missing, so it didn't take long to get this back together and running again. The model seems to be a bit of a mixture of the old tender-driven Black 5 and a later version with pickups on all the wheels of the locomotive and a 5-pole ring field. The motor was a bit over lubricated, but otherwise working well, and the commutator wasn't excessively dirty, so I decided just to leave it alone and give it a wee bit of fresh oil here and there, and Henry was back in action. I haven't sent this back to David yet, as I'll be up the Aviemore Way later this month, and I plan to hand this in to someone personally at the museum. So there you go, that's some of the other locomotives I've been working on recently. I've already got a few more done that you'll see in episode 14, but in the meantime, that's your lot. Okay folks, catch us later.